Hello everybody, Peter Donaldson here from Grampian Transport Museum. I thought I'd show you a couple of objects today which have got connections between them, and it's the sort of thing that when we get them come in to the museum, and I in particular accession them, suddenly the names ring a bell with something else that I've seen. So this thing here is an old petrol pump, and it came from a dairy in Aberdeen. The dairy itself started off quite early on as usual with horses, and they moved into the realms of trucks and eventually got themselves their own petrol pump, the Fingask Dairy, which was there in Aberdeen. And it's an interesting pump itself because it has on the back of here BP. It's very, very faint. You probably wouldn't pick it up with a video, but it says BP on the back of it. So it's probably really early 1950s that this was produced. But we do know who produced it, and it was the company Vickers, which produced armaments, aircraft, all that sort of thing. And it was produced in London, in a place called Crayford. And there's some interesting things to do with Crayford, which I'll come back to in a minute. Now then, if I move across here to this, to this here, I have got a sewing machine, which is also part of the museum. Was probably used in an upholstery department for a garage, but this sewing machine is also Vickers, and it was also made at Crayford in London as well. And it's fascinating, the connection between the two. We managed to date this to the early 1920s because of the patterns on it, and the patterns changed as the years went by. This one, 1920, 21, somewhere around there. But Crayford in London and Vickers was an amazing place. And for those of you who are interested in old aviation history, there was a very famous inventor called Barnes Wallis, who produced the bouncing bomb. And then there was Neville Shute. Neville Shute was a very famous writer in the early 1950s, but he was also an extremely highly qualified aviation engineer and designer. And he and Barnes Wallis were working in Crayford, where this was made and this was made at the same time, and they were producing the R-101 airship, which went to Canada and back and did really well. But unfortunately, the one that was being produced by the government failed. It crashed on its first flight and burnt and killed nearly everybody on board. And so they got rid of it and said, right, we're not doing that at all. So Barnes Wallis and Neville Shute didn't actually get to make their airship work, although it was a success. So anyway, we got connections between that and a sewing machine and a petrol pump. And so that's V for today. On to the next object.